Once far apart, now back together. What did you make of Hazel, John?
I knew a last like that once. Anyway, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles, Governor. My name's John. His name is Andy. When I'm out walking, I strut my stuff, and I'm so strung out. I'm high as a kite. I just might stop to check you out. Well, that later. Andy, what have you got in store for us today?
Well, I'd like you to check out a band called Far Apart. Have you ever heard of a band called Far Apart? For starters, that's a good starting spot.
New.
Okay, great. Well, the track by them that I want you to go off and listen to is called Hazel. So either the name of a woman or the shade of an eye color, I'm not sure. But go off and give this a
Tree.
spin. What's that?
Tree.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair too. Yes, a hazel tree. Please go off and give this a spin and come back and let us know what you've made of it.
Okie dokie. Okay, we're off to a great start. There's an interesting mixture of things going on here. Has a really strong 90s feel to it. You've got almost like a wall of sound, which you'd associate with shoegaze, old school UK shoegaze. The more fuller in your face shoegaze. But the guitars were more heavily distorted and a bit more sort of ethereal in a way. Whereas this feels almost like post hardcore, whatever you want to call it. But there's the guitars are doing something. They're still layered though. So you got some really interesting stuff, and the drummers bashing away in a wave of more than a wave of cymbals. But yeah, it sounds really good. And then in comes your man, and again, it's a bit like the sort of lo-fi shoegazy. His vocals are down in the mix slightly, but he hasn't got that sort of flimsy vocals you associate with shoegaze. Do you know, it's like little bits which reminded me of little touches of a bit of this like Smashing Pumpkins, and also a bit of Fugazi and a bit of early Sugar as well, just in the way it all sort of mixes together. There's probably loads of other stuff as well, but that's what springs to mind. I like his vocals. I can't really understand what the hell he's saying. But it goes around in a pattern. You have this long opening salvo from him singing, and the one guitar motif is that doom, do do do, and so it goes out, and then at the end of the phrase, it hits bang in again with all these cymbal splashes and a different guitar motif. Really, really, no, I did great justice there. Really, really nice. Overall, it's got a lovely sort of aesthetic to it, which I enjoy. I think this will probably repeated listening, it will give out more and more each time. But this sounds great so far. just quickly, but I'll just go back to that. It's nice. There's a little mini pause, but not much of one. And then you get the guitar chugging. It's almost like he's doing a run up to do a high jump or something. That's quite cool. That's really nice. That just reminded me there of, and I don't know which came first. I suspect these guys sound earlier, but that sort of that drop and then that guitar just coming in with that sort of one riff, which then expands out like a ripple from a pebble being drops into water. It sounded like a sort of thing that Interpol would do, particularly on their first album. And I made a note of it. It's about here. But it sounded really nice. Drums are excellent as well. the end to check the time, but there you go, just went. Quite like that ending as well, actually. That final sort of symbol tap. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. There's that bits after that sort of singular interpol, that guitar coming back in, but they just jammed for close to a minute, and it sounded excellent. Um, really enjoyed it. I loved you appreciate the layers of the guitars and slightly different motifs in each one, and the drummer just really good as well without being too flashy. Um, yeah, it's just intriguing actually. Haven't got a scoop is what it's on about. It's obviously the Terry Venables penned TV detective series Hazel. I don't think they're referring to that. Um, could it be the character from Warship Down? Maybe not. I guess the only way to find out is to go back and chop it up with Andy.
Once far apart, now back together. What did you make of Hazel, John?
I knew a last like that once. Anyway, um, so yeah, this is a mixture of sounds and approaches. It opens with a sort of almost a wall of sound, which would be um, well, classic Motown, but also classic old school shoegaze with that sort of wall of sound of guitars. Um, and as the placement of the vocals in the mix way down, somewhere down near the naughty step. Um, however, things are not what they seem at first. So the guitars are not ethereal or sludgy. Um, they're more like power chords assailing a forest of noise, ably assisted by the pummeling drums. Um, there's a really pleasant motif from one of the guitars, which sort of dances over the top of this brouhaha. And as they both settle down when the vocals appear, um, and the vocals again is a different style. It has all the vigor of a bloke shouting at you from the bus stop right down the end of the street. It has this lo-fi aesthetic mixed in with it as well. And from this initial sort of, part of the song, um, it feels very 90s. I'm getting all sorts of influences, and there's probably loads more that I can't think of, but off the top of my head initially, I'm getting all smatterings of like early, Smashing Pumpkins, Fugazi, definitely, and even some early sort of Sugar, Bob Mould as well, amongst all the sounds. I haven't got a clue what your man is singing. I catch a line that says something about a jacket filled with glue. Um, anyway, the next verse follows, and apparently he can't read her mind. I got that bit. I mean, it really is. It's like, it's like getting messages from a Ouija board. Certain words pop through and others don't. I mean, I presume at this point he's addressing the titular Hazel. Um, now, there was a TV series in the 70s in UK television called Hazel about a private detective. And the only memorable thing about it was that one of the two writers for this show was footballer and future England manager Terry Venables, who you would not believe wrote a TV series. He was known for his time in Spain managing Barcelona team. He was forever known as El Tel after that. Um, it's fucking mad to think that he wrote that. Anyway, so I'm sure this isn't about that show. So there's a semi-pause at the end of this verse as he sings, but not now. And the chugging guitar, it seemingly takes a little run up to the next section. It's like someone preparing for a high jump and they go, and then they're into it. And there's like a delightful little guitar squealing in the left channel at that time as well. And now, without getting into the lyrics, I'm really liking the cadence of the lines anyway. So we get this initial opening and elongated word or note for the first couple of whatever he's saying. And then that guitar motif works underneath it. And it's kind of this sort of physical sort of stirring, like, and then it goes through to the end of the phrase, And there's a big hit at the end of the phrase with like cymbal splashes, and this different guitar riff that carries us through to cycle back. So it's kind of the reverse of on the one, it's on the four, I guess, or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, really nice, and it just works through in this sort of circular fashion that's really pleasing. So all I'm getting is non sequiturs at this stage, so I'll just let it flow over me. Um, at the 3:15 mark, we get this brief pause and another chugging run up. I'm kind of expecting the pauses to be longer, but they're just real sort of half steps. Um, the next section, he's singing, it feels like longer phrases sung by the vocalist, like they're running through lines until I catch silly, silly, silly me. And the music parts for this trill from the guitar that echoes along. And it's not unlike something Interpol would interject into their songs. And I'm presuming that Interpol come after these guys.
Mhm.
But, but it's that dramatic suspension of everything except that quivering guitar line that cuts through, and then it rebuilds itself upon itself. So back come the band after an invitation from a drum fill, as is de rigueur. They jam out for the next 40 seconds or so, and I'm really loving the layers of guitar and the contribution for the drum. The drum is really good. Does a really good job here. At this point, I don't know whether it's just it washing over me, but it starts to feel slightly familiar. But I think it's familiar in style rather than content. Like it reminds me of something else that's familiar, but I can't put my finger on it, which means it's different enough not to be, it's that straight away. Um, just before the 5 minute mark, the vocals return and the guitar chimes as we build up to the grand finale. A couple more run ups and then drum fills. And then we get this cutout finish on Silly, Silly Me in the final. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Um, I particularly the rich texture of the music and naturally the guitars. Um, but yeah, it'd be interesting to know what it's about. I mean, I thought of the title again, and surely it has to be about the character Hazel from Watership Down. Um, yeah, that's the only thing I could think of.
Surely indeed. No, it's not. But
God
I'm
damn
really yeah, I'm really
it.
glad that you liked it as much as you did. This band is like has reached sort of this mythical status in certain followings. They were a 90s emo band from Luleå, Sweden. The band were formed in 1995, and their name derives from the song by the same title by The Cure. So Far Apart's melodic and emotional music was close to Fugazi, Drive Like Jehu, and Jawbox, but with rhythm, blues, and soul. The band featured Mats Ermalm, guitar vocals, Kalle Nyman, bass and vocals, Stefan Sundstrom on guitar, and Thomas Nielsen on drums. Their debut 7-inch Hazel was released in 1997 on Sweden's Car Crash Records and later picked up by the US label Crank Records in 1998. The EP features 3 tracks: Hazel, Dartmouth, and Overdriver. After the release of Hazel in the US, major label offers started pouring in. Although the band's rebellious and anti corporate frame of mind removed every possibility of any such major label release. Still unsigned, this represents the band's punk rock attitude to the very core. After 2 self-promoted tours in Sweden, Germany, and the Czech Republic, together with their friends, the John Doe Band, a split 7-inch with the very same band was released on Premonition Records in Sweden, and the Smith and Nephew Company in Germany. After breaking up in 1999, the band became a hidden gem of the 90s emo scene. In the 2000s, their music quietly gained legendary status through Reddit threads and emo message boards, becoming a hidden gem among genre aficionados. And just last year, Love It Records and Car Crash Records joined forces to finally release the band's fully remastered discography, which is just that one release. The Hazel 7-inch stands at an aggregated score of 81 over at Album of the Year. Meanwhile, the album sits at an aggregate score of 4.7 out of 5 over at musicboard.org based on 15 reviews. And over at I Hate the 90s, reviewer Mike Duranko wrote the following of the EP. A loud and aggressive musical presence is maintained throughout this EP. As far apart, take three songs of post-punk abrasiveness and transfer them onto record to create Hazel. Consisting of four musicians who put their backs into each song they belt out. The complex emotion of their music also has an undertone of pop that's led by the crisp but sensitive vocals of Kale Nyman. Best compared to Seaweed without the metal influences, Far Apart provides the energy and intensity to wake up any coffee house crowd.
Yeah, a couple of things there. So one EP and half a single. Um, I think there's probably I could lay my hands on 30 or 40 British bands who did exactly the same
Yeah, yeah,
during the sort of like the jangle indie pop thing. And I wouldn't even begin to say any of them are of this quality in terms of musically, but
yeah.
much beloved as well, probably not obsessively. Which leads me on to the second thing, and probably the three most chilling words I've ever heard you utter. Emo message board. I mean, Jesus. The blood runs cold thinking about it.
I'm thinking of all
but
the tear-stained
oh,
computer screens that have it's been
well,
pulled up on.
but having said that, this song doesn't, to me, and I know we've had this sort of like different shades of meaning, but it doesn't like indicate emo to me.
No, I
I think
think
it's probably intent, is it, rather than actual sound.
yeah, I also think that I've just inundated you with like the third and fourth wave of emo, and you're not putting your mind in the 90s phase of emo, which is a completely different thing and is more akin to, Sunny Day Real Estate or even a Jimmy Eat World. I haven't brought Braid to the channel yet, but they're another one that would probably be closer associated or affiliated with this sound than the mid-aught stuff that I've given you of late. So yeah, I totally agree with you compared to that kind of
Yeah,
material.
it
But
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't sound so self-indulgent. Forgive but you know
yeah,
what I
no,
mean,
that's
or introspective as that. Now,
yeah,
it may be the lyrics completely say that, but the sound of it seems more expansive.
yeah, it does. And it sounds it's like 90s alt rock, post-punk, and
Yeah, yeah,
first wave emo that's all kind of distilled through this, Swedish filter or whatever. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, yeah, interesting stuff. I'll say that to the first point you made, um, what makes this so interesting or different from the 30 or 40 bands you could name from England that are, have a similar trajectory or whatever, is that how many of those were having record executives
yeah.
from America knocking down their door to get them signed, you know what I mean? Which is, some people don't want that. These guys clearly didn't want that. And I'm not assuming that those 30 or 40 bands that you posited were waiting for that. But the difference is, like, they were about to have money thrown at them, American record money thrown at them, and they said, nah, we're all set here. We're good. We're comfortable just touring Europe and playing our music and being liked by those who are around us, which I think that's part of why they've reached this legendary status for so many, which is great. Hats off to them. But go ahead.
The golden rule is, and you'll know that if you watch any of their crime noir series, is don't vote with the Scandinavians.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Throughout history, I think that's a
They
pretty
beat
good
to it.
mantra.
They yeah, different beat to them
Yes.
completely.
Yes. So these
Bless them.
lyrics. After a while, she walks into the room, the pockets of her jacket filled with glue, into which she stuffed her fingers. I am stuck. Now, I guess that's kind of like he's wrapped around her finger. She stuck it in this pocket full of glue, and thus he is stuck. We all get sometimes, and then she smiles. but I just can't read her mind. Sometimes her smile doesn't reach her eyes, and I'm trying to say sorry. Don't lie. We all lie sometimes, but not now. I change my outfit every day. I say those things that I think you would like to hear me say. I do things I normally wouldn't do, just to make you let me spend a while with you. Silly, 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 silly me. And pardon me as I take a break here, but this is a bit emo-y. Like it doesn't sound, it's not packaged in that, but just distilled to the lyrics.
Yeah.
And which I don't blame you because you weren't catching this shit. It's buried. You had to go, spelunking to reach the clarity in the lyrics here. So, she lights a fag and sits down on the floor, her face buried in that mess of hair. God, I thought I knew her color. I don't. I don't know anything. So I look up, but it looks like she has left, worried she's gonna kill herself. But she went to the bathroom, and I laugh. We all laugh sometimes, just not now. I change my outfit every day. I say those things that I think you would like to hear me say. I do those things I normally wouldn't do just to make you let me spend a while with you. Silly, 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 silly me. I change my outfit every day. I say those things I think you would like to hear me say. I do things I normally wouldn't do just to make you let me spend a while with you. I change my outfit every day. I say those things that I think you would like to hear me say. I do things I normally wouldn't do just to make you let me spend a while with you. Silly, silly, silly me. So, according to Casey Monroe at gigwise.com, Hazel is an emotional rock song that represent the band's signature blend of emo and post-hardcore styles. And I think it's hilarious that they call this post-hardcore when it precedes the proliferation of hardcore, as far, you know what I mean? Like hardcore music hadn't reached its era of needing a post version of itself when so when they wrote this. So the track features soul-searching lyrics and lively instrumentation reflecting the band's expressive sound. This song is about a girl and our narrator's attempt to capture her attention while battling the idea that he is overthinking every move he makes in order to garner her affection, which only feeds his insecurity. So, to put it in Scandinavian terms, it's kind of like that snake that's eating itself, or whatever the metaphor is there. So, yeah, really interesting band, kind of like a for not for them. I'm sure they're completely comfortable in their skin and their decision. But for a lot of us who found it then or subsequently found it over the years, the story of like what could have been if we got more music out of these guys, because you could just listen to this one track, as you have and pointed out. There's a shitload of talent on display here, and it's like, oh my God, what are you going to do with this? What's the next phase of this sound? And unless you're, over there in, the continent proper, you're probably not getting a taste of. And what you did would have come in the form of live shows. And I wonder what those live shows look and sound like when they've got about a half dozen fucking tracks to play. Like that's a very short performance, unless there's other unrecorded original material by these guys out there, which I do not know because they are this sort of myth, at least to us here in America. So yeah, really interesting band. And I was really interested to hear what you had to say about giving these guys a spin. If you ever come across the Hazel, 7-inch or the EP or whatever, please let me know because that seems like a real diamond in the rough if anyone were to find it out there. And I'm thinking it's probably only really capable of being found in Europe. That's my
Yeah, yeah.
assumption.
Yeah,
So,
I'd imagine so.
yeah.
Yeah, there's you reading out the lyrics there. There's a certain I hesitate to say this because you don't know, do you? But you wonder about the language and the use of it. I mean, quite often Europeans learned English is superior to some of our native English speakers who, we're lazy, we mess up our syntax and our grammar completely. But other times it isn't. And there's a certain charm to it. And you wonder if some of these words are slightly awkward or misused or they're sort of not quite appropriate. or perhaps that's what they're getting at. You just don't know. So there's this charm with it as well.
Yeah.
Um,
The,
I mean, maybe they're completely fluent, and they do know exactly what they're doing, or they've got this unintentional charm to it as well. But it's great about, he changes his bloody, attire every day and stuff. It's
yeah.
hilarious. And, I'm worried about she's going to kill herself, but no, she's just gone to the bathroom,
That was
you
going to be what I was going
know.
to jump in when yeah, that's my favorite two lines in the whole song. Like it speaks to this dumb puppy mentality of like when the owner leaves the room, they think the whole world has just ended, and you come back 10 minutes later and they act as if you've been gone for 2 days. There's that to this young love aspect from our narrator where, worried she's going to kill herself, but she just went to the bathroom. Like that's so funny and dry and hilarious. So yeah, yeah, I love that line too. And I have to think that it's intended. You don't land on something that, silly unless you mean to. So but yeah, thank you so much for giving this a listen, John. I was really happy to hear what you had to say about this one, man. So thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of Far Apart by Hazel. If you were familiar with this kind of mysterious, here one moment and gone the next band from Sweden, please give it a shout down in the comments field below. And if you know anything about what happened to them in the subsequent 25 years after their sort of brief touch of popularity or fame, also shout that down in the comments field below. Also, like, share, and or subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. If you would, please, we really do appreciate it. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audio Files. We'll see you later, guys.